Literary periods in English literature. English literature has evolved through distinct periods, each characterized by unique literary styles, themes, and social contexts. Here is a brief overview of these periods. 1. Old English, Anglo-Saxon, period 450 to 1066 2. Middle English period 1066 to 1503. The Renaissance, 1500 to 1664. The Neoclassical Period, 1660 to 1798, 5. The Romantic Period, 1798 to 1837, 6. The Victorian Period, 1837 to 19017. The Modern Period, 1901 to 1945, 8. The Postmodern Period, 1945 to present First Old English, Anglo-Saxon Period, 450 to 1066. The Old English period marks the beginning of English literature, deeply rooted in oral tradition. It features heroic and religious themes, reflecting a society that valued courage, fate, and spiritual devotion. The language was heavily Germanic, with a unique poetic style. Sub-periods: Early Anglo-Saxon, 5th to 7th century. Late Anglo-Saxon, 8th to 11th century. Characteristics and trends: oral tradition and heroic poetry were dominant in this period, with a strong emphasis on religion, fate, and the transitory nature of life. Literary works often utilized alliteration, kennings, and lacked rhyme. Famous works: Beowulf, The Wanderer, The Seafarer. Famous writers: anonymous authors, oral tradition. Cynewulf, Caedmon, Second Middle English period, 1066 to 1500. The Middle English period saw significant linguistic and cultural changes following the Norman conquest. Literature of this time was marked by its religious focus, as well as the rise of courtly love and chivalric romance. It blended English with French and Latin influences. Sub-periods: Anglo-Norman literature, 11th to 13th century. Late Middle English, 14th to 15th century. Characteristics and trends: this period saw the blending of Old English with French and Latin influences, leading to the development of religious and allegorical literature. Themes of chivalric romance and courtly love became increasingly popular. Famous works: Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, William Langland's Piers Plowman, Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur. Famous writers: Geoffrey Chaucer, William Langland. Julian of Norwich, 3. The Renaissance, 1500 to 1660. The Renaissance was a period of cultural rebirth inspired by classical antiquity. It emphasized humanism, individuality, and the exploration of new ideas. Drama and poetry reached their zenith during this time, particularly in the Elizabethan and Jacobean ages. Sub-periods: the Early Tudor period, 1500 to 1558. The Elizabethan Age, 1558 to 1603. The Jacobean Age, 1603 to 1625. The Caroline Age, 1625 to 1649. The Commonwealth period, 1649 to 1660. Characteristics and trends: the Renaissance revived classical Greek and Roman ideals and marked a shift toward humanism, individuality, and exploration. Drama, poetry, and prose flourished during this era. Famous works: William Shakespeare's Hamlet, Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene, Sir Thomas More's Utopia. Famous writers: William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, John Donne. The Neoclassical Period, 1660 to 1798. This period was characterized by its adherence to order, rationality, and decorum, modeled after classical traditions. Writers focused on satire and social critique, reflecting the values of the Enlightenment. Subperiods are the Restoration Age, 1660 to 1700, the Augustan Age, 1700 to 1750, the Age of Sensibility, 1750 to 1798. Characteristics and trends. This period emphasized reason, logic, and order, often reflecting satirical critiques of societal norms. Writers adhered strictly to classical literary forms and decorum. Famous works are John Milton's Paradise Lost, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. Famous writers are John Dryden, Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope. The Romantic Period, 1798 to 1837. The Romantic period rejected the rationalism of the Neoclassical era and embraced emotion, imagination, and a deep connection with nature. It was a reaction to industrialization, with themes of individuality and a fascination with the supernatural. Characteristics and trends. This period celebrated emotion, imagination, and a deep connection with nature, often rebelling against the constraints of industrialization. Interest in the supernatural and exotic was also prominent. Famous works are William Wordsworth's lyrical ballads, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Famous writers are William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Lord Byron. 6. The Victorian Period, 1837 to 1901. The Victorian period reflected the tensions of industrialization and societal reform. Literature explored moral dilemmas and human struggles, with the novel emerging as a dominant form of storytelling. Subperiods are Early Victorian, 1837 to 1850, Mid-Victorian, 1850 to 1870, Late Victorian, 1870 to 1901. Characteristics and trends. Victorian literature often reflected industrialization and its accompanying social issues, featuring complex moral dilemmas and realistic characters. The novel became a dominant literary form. Famous works are Charles Dickens's Great Expectations, Collins, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, Alfred, Lord Tennyson's In Memoriam. Famous writers are Charles Dickens, Charlotte Bronte, Thomas Hardy. 7. The Modern Period, 1901 to 1945. The modern period broke away from traditional literary forms, experimenting with style and structure. Writers explored themes of alienation, disillusionment, and fragmentation in response to rapid societal and technological changes. Characteristics and trends. Modern literature broke away from traditional forms and experimented with style, often addressing themes of alienation, disillusionment, and fragmentation caused by rapid societal changes and the world wars. Famous works are James Joyce's Ulysses, T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land, Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. Famous writers are James Joyce, T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf. 8. The Postmodern Period, 1945 to present. Postmodernism questioned established narratives and blurred the boundaries between high and low art. It used innovative techniques such as metafiction and pastiche to explore the complexities of identity, truth, and power. Characteristics and trends. Postmodern literature blurs the boundaries between high and low culture, using metafiction, pastiche, and unreliable narrators to explore themes like identity, power, and truth. Famous works are Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, George Orwell's 1984, Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children. Famous writers are Samuel Beckett, George Orwell. Salman Rushdie. You can find in-depth videos about each period on our channel. Thank you.